All right, guys, so here we are again. I'd like to say this is probably take two, or as some of us might say, oops, I forgot it. And I wanted to tell you in my first video, so oops, we forgot it, and we are here again with Aunt Christine, and we're going to talk some more with her about some things that we forgot to talk about in the first video. So y'all bear with us, and we'll get this thing going. So Aunt Chris, what would be some of the things that what are you most proud of in your life that you've lived in your 84 years now on this earth?
I'm most proud that God has blessed me as much as He has, because I have been truly blessed. Second is my family. Everybody that knows me knows that my family is, that's all I ever wanted, was a family, And so that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, and with that family, you and Uncle Joe back in the day, y'all populated the earth with some additional human beings, didn't you?
Yes, we did. I had more children than anybody in the family. I had 4. Francis had 2. Hewlin had 1.
That he knows of.
That he knows of. Daddy had 9 that he knows of. But anyway, I had 4. Francis had 2. Hewlin had 1. Marie had 2. Clifton had 2, and Tommy had 2, and Shirley and Ricky had 0. Anyway.
So you had 4, and tell me a little bit about those 4.
Okay, Cindy was my oldest, or is my oldest. She had 3 children. Her oldest one, Mason, precious grandchild. But he was a firefighter, but he got killed when he was 24 in a 4-wheeler accident. We thought he'd live forever because, and it was just amazing, the people that turned out for his visitation and everything. It was, you couldn't find a parking place. But anyway, and then Seth is her second one. He lives in Montgomery. He's in construction. And then Caitlin, she's the one that has the precious little twins that I just absolutely adore.
Those are the ones that run around naked?
They're the ones that run around naked.
Uh-huh.
And she has an 8-year-old, Jet. And but Seth has, Mason was never married, so he didn't have any children that we know of. He was kind of like a Cruz too, but he was a rascal. Mason was a little rascal. But Seth has 3 children. He was married before, and he has a son and a daughter. We call him Little Mason. He was named after Mason and Presley, and they live in North Carolina. And then Seth is married again, and he has a little girl named Charlie. And I will go ahead and say I've never seen her. Not my fault, but I don't know whose fault it is, but I've never seen her. She's precious, though. I'd see pictures of her.
Yes.
And then Caitlin, she has absolutely, they are just precious. They are just absolutely precious. So different. They don't even look alike. But then she has Jet. He's the oldest. But yeah, they're the ones that they'll just pull. I don't know what she's going to do when they start preschool this fall, when they get tired of their clothes and they start pulling them off in the classroom. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do with them. But anyway, they're precious. And then Deborah.
And Deborah is your
second child.
Second born.
And she is married to Russell Jones. He's a wonderful son-in-law.
Shout out there, Russell.
The best thing that ever happened to Deborah. He's a wonderful husband, wonderful daddy, Christian man. They have 2 children, Sydney, and Sydney's married to Avery, and they're in Ohio. He's, I think, likes a couple of years having his PhD. He wants to be a math professor. Russell says he's almost a nerd, but he's not. He's so smart. But Sydney is too. And Sydney teaches kids how to speak English. And then Brandon will either graduate this May or this December from Auburn. And he'll be going into whatever, what is that called? That you're
environmental, or you said wildlife management.
Yeah. And he's a precious child too. Both of her children are real Christian children. Then who's my third child? David.
Old David.
David has 2 children. David was married to Elizabeth for about 18 years, and Elizabeth had a rare liver cancer, and she died in 2016. But they had Abigail and little David. And Abigail is actually in Ohio too, and she teaches. And then her fiance, they'll be getting married this June. But he's an engineer, and we love him. And I don't know, Abigail would never have found anybody in this world as good as he is. He treats her like a queen. It may change when he marries her, I don't know. But anyway, and then little David is a financial advisor. He works with his dad, and he's a fine young man. And Abigail is too. Abigail's precious.
Now David lives down there.
He lives at Fairhope. He lives in Fairhope. And he's been working, he graduated in 23. So he's been working a couple of years now. And then Jennifer.
That's your caboose.
That's my caboose.
Bringing up the rear end there.
And she's a mess. But she's married. Oh, let me go back to David. Because after, I think it was about 4 years after Elizabeth died that David remarried. He married a really sweet girl. She has 4 children. She has 3 biological children, and she has an adopted daughter. She adopted her sister's daughter when her sister died with cancer. So, yeah, her mother and her sister died in 6 hours of each other. They both had cancer. Her mother and her, I think it was 6 hours. Something, might have been 6 days, but I think it was 6 hours. But anyway, her name is Lisa, and her oldest child is Kenneth, and he just had a little boy. And then Mary Lynn, she's a teacher, she's in New Hampshire. And then Austin lives in Chattanooga. I don't know what Austin does.
Look here, I don't even know how you remember all these folks.
Well,
I mean,
you know, I'm 84, and but there's something good about me. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's my brain. And then they have Alice. Alice was the one that they adopted. That was her sister's, and Alice has a little girl. So Lisa and David have 2. David has 2 step grandchildren that I think he loves them dearly, though. And Lisa's a really sweet lady. She adores David. She's very good to David.
good.
And then Jennifer is married to James, and James would do anything in the world for anybody. I mean, he just is. He is a good human being, and they have Zachary.
Son Zachary. Yeah.
They have Zachary bragging on my brain, and now it's going away.
Sorry about that, Zachary. She didn't remember you.
Yeah, but Zachary is married to the sweetest little girl, and she's beautiful. She looks like Barbie, and he looks like Ken. And he's a firefighter at the airport in Panama City. So that about tells it about my children and my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Cindy is not married now. Cindy has been married. a few times.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's not married now,
Okay.
and
All right. Well, that's a like you said, that's a good sized family right there. Now, you've
yeah,
done good.
yeah. My house is not big enough. Oh, and
Yeah.
I never did tell you, Scott, how we came about living here. We
No.
lived over there,
Right. You
and
lived in the big house on the corner.
yeah, and we when the Medigo closed, Joe was going to go to work in Birmingham with barbers. I'm sorry. And while we were up there, Deborah lived here,
Okay.
and she had a daycare. And this was her daycare. But when she married Russell, we bought this, and we thought we'll have a place, to go to, and we won't have to bother them when we go home. So we furnished this with not just and this is where we would come when we
Came home.
came home.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got ready to move back down here, Joe didn't like this house. He said, you can't turn around in this damn thing, he'd say. every time he'd walk down this way, he'd say, of course up there I had 3 bedrooms, a living room, a den, a dining room. I had like 5 bedroom suites. I had 2 down here, and then I had 3 up there. But anyway, and so I just had all kind of mess, and that's what that living room's doing down there. I didn't have anywhere to put it, but down there, and I weren't gonna throw it away. So, but anyway, that's how we ended up here. And he wanted to buy another house, and I did not see any sense. I didn't see any sense in it, because I don't have to have a big house to make me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to have a big car to make me feel good. I just need a home. That's all I need. And my friend, Miss Shirley, just one day, I've never paid attention to what was around me, because I don't care. She's sitting in there on the ottoman, and somebody was walking by, and she said, Mom, you need to move. And I said, why? She said, because you live in the hood. I said, Shirley, and ever since then, it has bothered me. It has bothered me.
Thank you, Shirley.
Yeah, thank you, Shirley. I said, I have never, ever, what was around me didn't bother me. I just, wherever I was, I made a home out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, she said, Mom, you need to move.
Well, so one of the things we had talked about was, a lot of people think that they really know you. Some of them do, some of them don't. But what would be something that would surprise our viewers here today about Christine Cruz Ketchum?
It would surprise them to know that I am not a bitch. That would really surprise them. I am a good person.
Yeah.
But and I sometimes might speak a little harsh.
Mm.
But people that know me know how to take me, and about half of what I say I don't mean. That don't mean a lie. I'm just kidding.
Right,
with
right.
a lot of the stuff I say, but some people don't know how to take kidding, so you have to be careful sometimes what you're saying, how you act, and what you do. So
Well, now,
I just want them to know I'm not a bitch.
Well, there you go.
That's all.
Y'all heard that. You ain't a bitch. Actually, pretty good. She was gonna cook me and Cindy some lunch
I
today,
was.
but we didn't let her. So
I
we said, no,
was,
we're
or I
not
was going to
doing
take you up to Ketchum's and feed you.
There you go. Now I learned some stuff just earlier in the car ride over here to your house that about your work life that I didn't know, but I'm glad I know now. And you were telling me that you worked for the state for so many years, and then you did some other stuff. Tell me about that kind of at the beginning there.
Well, in 1970, I was pregnant with Jennifer when I actually started inspecting peanuts with Inspection Service, Federal State Inspection Service. And when she was, well, I inspected while I was pregnant that year, and then I inspected the next year, and then my boss man up there, he just liked me. He knew I wanted to be he just liked me, and he wanted me to, and they actually let the man go that was doing the printing and put me in the printing room, and I was there for like 22 years, and I left in 91 or 92 when we moved to Birmingham. I think it was a year before we moved to Birmingham that I retired. And then when I was in Birmingham, I was not going to work. And I don't know if you know this or not, Scott and Cindy, but while I was up there, I actually, I went looking for an apartment one day. No, where we lived, they wanted me to shop for them. So I said, okay. I said, tell me what I need to do. And she said, you just go and you find out if they're running any specials or anything like that. And then you come back and let us know. So I went to, the first place I went to was Meadows on the Lake. And the lady, the manager, saw me coming, and she told her leasing agent, she said, I'll take this one. So when I got in, I started asking questions. I told them I was looking for an apartment, and I wanted to know if they had any specials going, or, you know, or what. She looked at me, she said, are you a shopper? I said, what the hell is a shopper? But before I left there that day, she said, if I had an opening, I would hire you. So about 3 weeks later, I was just riding around, and she was out on the property walking, Lori was, and we ended up being the best of friends. She was like Shirley. She was like my daughter. You know, she was so much younger than me. Actually, she was half my age, and she was beautiful. But anyway, she was out walking the grounds, and I stopped, and she said, I have an opening. Do you want to come to work? And I said, yeah. Well, I was not ever going to work again. You know, I didn't think. Well, I went to work as a leasing agent, and before they knew it, they was 100% occupied, and I was just having the time of my life. I was having a good time. And then she made me her assistant, the assistant manager. And I still would lease apartments. I love leasing apartments. And then a manager's job come up. And did you know I managed an apartment community in Birmingham?
I didn't know that.
I did. See, I'm so smart.
You ain't.
Ooh, but some of them thought I was up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be tough to do to do that. But I was not going to take it, because I told you, I said, I can't do this. I mean, I cannot. You have to do a budget. You have to, Lord, you have to do everything. And I said, I can't do it. You know, he said, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you're not going to know whether or not you can do it unless you try. So I told him I would take it. And while I was there, that community, it had been, I don't know how long it had been, years probably, that it had been 100% occupied. It was 100% occupied after I started to work there. I won beautification awards for the grounds. I had no outstanding work orders, because, you know, if there was something that had to be done, it better be done, because you don't play. You get your job done, then you play. But anyway, I did the budget for that year, and they said I did really well. So, but then they tried to sell that property. Daniel Realty owned the property. They had tried to sell. That property been up for sale, and it never would sell. Well, I'd be darned. It sold. And some people out of New York bought it. I could not work. Daniel Realty was a structured company, and I could not work. I couldn't work for
The other
Benchmark.
kind.
I couldn't. First of all, I had to fly to New York, and I'd never flown before. Will Scott. I just got so sick. Ooh.
Oh, you got sick, air sick.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. Joe told me, you don't need anything. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You don't need to take anything. Well, I didn't take it. I got so
Oh,
sick.
gosh.
The only good thing out of that flight was at the airport, I met Ricky Van Shelton. I flew out of flew out of Nashville, and I met him. And the lady that was going to fly with me got so mad. She said, "I've never seen a country music star at this airport since I've been flying out of here." I said, "Well," and I just went and talked. He walked by, and I recognized him, and he went on, and I thought, I'm gonna go talk to him. So I just got my little butt up, and here I went, and we just had the best conversation you ever seen. But anyway, he was really good looking.
Was easy to talk to.
He was very easy to talk to. Joe was just sitting back there, not bothering anybody, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Then you came down to.
Well, I left Benchmark.
Yeah.
I could not work for Benchmark. Then I had to fly to Chicago, and I said, I ain't doing this.
I ain't doing it.
I'm not doing this. So I left.
But then when y'all came back to Hartford,
Joe didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job. And I was not going to work. And I saw Marcia Hatcher at the post office one day, and I asked her, did they need anybody at the bank? And she said, actually, we do. The girl that was answering the phone was leaving, and she talked to Johnny, and Johnny hired me, and I've been there ever since.
That's 20-something years, you said,
25,
at the bank.
25 years.
25 years at the bank. And now we are sitting here today, I forgot to tell you guys this, March the 2nd, 2025. And so you've been there 25 years, and you had 21 plus with the
state. So I basically,
so
and then I had like 6 years in Birmingham. So out of my 84 years, after I actually got away from home and started working, I've only had 3 jobs. That's not bad.
That ain't bad at all.
That ought to prove to you that I'm a good person.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share that we forgot to talk about that you can remember? I know you want to talk about the kids. We've done that, and the job, and anything else you could think of?
I did talk about Daddy to start with, didn't I? About him being a good person.
Well, you didn't in this one. This is the ones we forgot. So you can go ahead and say what you.
Well, yeah, I hated that I didn't. I mean, because I kind of thought bad about him in the first one, but he was not a bad person. Mm-hmm. He just liked women, and he liked whiskey. And yes, that's. And
runs
he always said after he quit doing it, he said if he'd left wine, women, and song alone, he would have been okay. He might have had something. But Daddy was a good man, and he loved his family. He did. He loved all of his children, and he loved Mama, even though I call it abuse. You know, it was not physical. But emotional, I think. And Mama knew what he was doing, but Daddy did, and he worked very hard for us. And but he was gonna play on the weekends.
Yeah. That's.
But
I remember one time we were he because he didn't spare the rod if somebody needed to be disciplined or brought back around to his way of thinking. And I remember, because I lived with him, and
did he ever whip you?
That's where I was getting ready to go. I was young. I don't know. I might have been 6 years old, maybe 7. I don't know, somewhere along there. But Daddy, I forgot if Daddy was working with the state of Florida, but Mama worked out at the shirt factory in Bonifay. And I remember Mom telling me that LD called her one day and said he was just crying, and that he said, I've had to whip our boy. And, and Mom was like, what's going on? And I remember it to this day. He was out there, we had a tractor and a disc on the back of the tractor. And he had to get up underneath that disc to work on something on that disc. Well, he had it up, and of course, he didn't think about safety. So, you know, if you let the disc down,
If you're under
come down
two,
on him.
and it's gonna cut you in two.
Yeah, and he told me, he ain't here to defend it, but he told me, he said, let that disc down, son. And I let it down, and he rolled quick enough out from under it and reacted fast enough that it didn't get him. But he snatched me off that tractor, and I remember it. He tore my ace up. And to this day, though, I'm telling you, LD said, let that disc down, and I let it down. And
Lord have mercy.
But that apparently wasn't what he meant when he said let the disc down to me. But yeah, that was something I didn't.
He might have meant don't let the disc down.
Yeah,
while
but
I'm
he
here.
may have, and but yeah, I got one whooping from him, and I remembered I was about 6.
You know, I don't know if he ever whipped Cheryl and Ricky. I don't know, but he never whipped Marie. Marie never got a whipping from Daddy.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And I guess, you know, there's always reasons for everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's that. Let's see. Is there anything that you would want to, anything else you would want our future descendants to
Yeah, I'm
else
gonna use a couple of lines from a Dolly Parton song.
Come on with it.
I hope life treats you kind, and I hope you have all you ever dreamed of. Whew.
Yeah. Because there's several of them. Because you got great grandkids now.
And I wish you joy and happiness.
Yeah.
But above all of this, I wish you love. I was not going to cry.
Because you know.
I'm not I'm not a crier. But I just, when you think about, I mean, when Mason was born, I couldn't believe, you know, I mean, that come from me. You know, that was part of me. And it's just hard to, and I just hope that we just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I hope that there's a lot of children and a lot of grandchildren, a lot of great grands, and thank you, Cindy.
And they just gotta continue it on for us. So.
But I've always thought that love was probably the easiest thing in the world to do. But Mama used to tell me, she said, Chris, now everybody's not gonna love you. And I would say, why, Mama? You know? I mean, why it's so easy? You know? But see, that proves I'm.
That's right. There's actually a heart down inside this one, y'all.
There is a heart. There is a heart.
Now, I'm going to lean on your memory just a little bit, because in some of these we didn't talk about it with everybody, but as I got to going through these and we finished all of them, I wanted to say, you know, I didn't really talk a whole lot about Granny Cruz Gardis' brothers and sisters that she had, but they had a pretty good sized family, just like Granddaddy's side did and Big Mama. But Gardis had quite a few, and I don't remember all of them's name, but if you can help us remember what those are.
I don't know who the oldest was.
But
there was Aunt Irene.
Aunt Irene, yeah.
Aunt Arlevy, Mama, Aunt Erie, Betty Sue, Uncle Jesse, Barney, and Donnie.
Estelle.
Aunt Estelle. We always forget Aunt Estelle. We always gotta love her. She was so sweet though.
Yes, yes.
She wouldn't wish for anything. She would say, I would. She wouldn't wish because she thought it was a sin to wish.
So they had a big family.
No, Mama, yeah, it was, I don't know. Aunt Arlene might have been the oldest. I don't know, but she was so pretty. I remember, and her children were just beautiful children. Aunt Arlene had a big family, but it was Aunt Arlene, Aunt Irene, Aunt Estelle, Aunt Erie, Mama, Betty Sue, Uncle Jesse, Barney, and Donnie. There was 9.
9 of them. Goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Papa Barnes, when he got out of prison,
he went to town.
He was busy, wasn't he?
He thought, I'll show y'all.
Yeah, he went to town. Well, we learned a lot in those videos with him about Papa Barnes and then his 2 brothers, and whenever they got up there in Esto that night, and one of them killed the doctor there in Esto. There was a little party, and actually Reamer Barnes, who was Elias's, we call him Lizer, but
Uncle Liars is what we called him.
Uncle Liars' son. Well, we learned from Liars' grandson, Mike, that he had a lot of newspaper articles about the Barnes boys killing them. And it was from 1914, and that's when they were sent off, and that's when Granny Cruz Gardis was born in 1914. So her mama was pregnant with her when Papa Barnes got sent off.
And they was off up there in Esto playing.
They were out there partying, and anyway, one of them killed the doctor. And then Papa Barnes and the other one, the youngest one, and I just lost his name. Joe. Joe was his name. And they got sent off, and then Lyris is the one that, from what all I've learned, is actually the one that actually killed the
That's what you
doctor.
told me when we was talking.
And Joe, when him and Papa Barnes broke out of prison and started coming back towards Holmes County, Papa went back, turned himself in, and had to do another year. But Joe, he kept hightailing it to Texas, wound up out in Texas, and changed his name from Joe Barnes to goodness, I just lost what it was now. But anyway, he changed his last name. He got married out there, and him and his wife had a daughter. They named her Geneva, and then they had a son. Well, while Joe was at work, what I've been told is their house caught on fire, and his wife and Geneva got out, and then she realized that the baby son was still in the house, so she went back in the house, got the baby, and got out, but the flames and the smoke inhalation and all killed the little boy and her after she got out.
My goodness.
So Joe had his daughter Geneva, and then he moved up to Oklahoma, just across the Texas-Oklahoma line, and became a pretty successful businessman up there with furniture sales and stuff.
Well, did he change his name back to Barnes?
He changed his name back to Barnes not long before he died, from what I can understand. And he's actually buried in Arkansas right now. That's where he's buried. And Reamer's son, Mike, actually interviewed Geneva and talked to her before she passed away, and got a lot of this information from her about Joe. So we've learned a lot about that, and hopefully can continue more. But
I think the Barnes family, Mama's side is more
Yeah, but they actually,
interesting than
yeah,
Daddy's
yeah,
side.
yeah. They actually, the Florida Pardons of Paroles uh, pardoned Uncle Joe and Papa Barnes, and
Oh,
there's newspaper articles on that show that they were pardoned, and that's not long after when he changed his name back to Barnes.
so nothing was ever done to Uncle Lars.
Not that we know of. That's right. But I know that from what Daddy Hewlin has told me it bothered him for all
That's
his
probably
life.
why he drank as
Yeah,
bad as he did. Because
yeah. So it was.
I can see him now walking up and down that dirt road with a walking stick.
Huh. And every pocket had a pint of moonshine in it.
Probably, probably.
But yeah, so that's some stuff that we've learned on all this interview stuff and talking. So anyway, well, those are some things that we forgot to talk about in this first one that we did, y'all, and so we wanted to get this last bit of information here and got to talk about the kids and Aunt Christine's work. Help you think of something?
No, I just didn't know if I needed to correct my little last statement where I cried. I don't need to be crying.
Oh no, this is all this is all fine.
Oh,
But
Lord.
okay, well, thank you so much for another good sit down. I'm so happy that we get to have time with you.
Well, you are welcome, and I just love you and Cindy
Oh, good.
to death.
Oh,
Y'all are precious people.
you love all your
You
nieces
turned
and
out.
nephews.
You turned out. In spite of your life, you turned out to be such a good person.
Well, thank you. Thank
But
you.
I kind of give Mom a lot of credit for that.
Yes, Garda's had a lot to do with that. But I forgot to tell something too, for y'all to know. When I was a senior in high school, junior or senior in high school, 1985 or 86, I would come up to Aunt Christine's on some of the weekends and visit them because not that I don't love Jennifer and
You love Deborah.
Deborah Deborah was just my cut. That was one I just
You love Deborah.
I love Deborah to death. I thought she was the prettiest thing since sliced bread. Now I'm just telling y'all, and still is. So
She's
but
precious.
we would me and Randy Barnes, Reamer's son, Randy, me and him would come up here on the weekends, and he thought she was just the prettiest thing too. So we would want to come up here as
Just
much
to-
as we
just
could
to look
just
at
to
her.
look at Deborah.
Do you remember the time you came and you had a?
Yeah, I had cut and it's still, the scar is still on that finger right there. I think it's that one. Yes, this one right there's the scar right there. And you can see that white scar.
Mhm.
I'd worked at the IGA in Bonifay, and I worked in the meat department. I was cutting chickens, and I nicked that finger, that pointer finger. And when I got up to your house, you saw that
A red streak.
she saw a red streak going up my arm, and she's like, what is that? And so I had it bandaged up, and she said, you need to go to the hospital, and you need to go now. And I was like, I was probably a junior or senior in high school.
But you went.
And I went to Geneva County Hospital in Geneva.
And you had blood poisoning.
And I had blood poisoning.
And it was headed toward his heart.
Toward my heart. And if it hadn't been for Aunt Christine,
You might
I
not be
might have
sitting there
died.
today.
I wouldn't have. I'm serious. I'm serious.
See?
And I didn't know
See,
no better.
I am good for something.
See, she was good. She was good for it. But the story even goes further. Goes on further than that. So I go in there. Now, I had to have been a junior. I had to have been a junior because Cindy and my wife and I were not, I don't think we were dating in my junior year. We didn't get together till my senior year. But I got to the Geneva Hospital, and my nurse was Cindy's mama. Sue,
You are
Sue,
kidding.
Sue Thompson Culliford from Geneva. But they lived in Westville, and Sue was a nurse at Geneva, and she was my nurse. and she is the first nurse that ever gave me an IV, because I had to have an IV that night when I got there, and she gave me my first ever IV.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if that got us together or not, but anyway.
Well, anyway.
But I remembered
I
whenever I
saved
went
your
to
life.
start, you saved my life that night. But I got to her house when I started dating Cindy, and then I met her mama. I remember, I was like, she was my nurse that night. I know her. I remembered it. But yeah, you and my mother-in-law Sue saved my life.
Well, I would say that Cindy is probably, other than your children, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to you.
Oh Lord, I'd be no telling where I'd be like the rest of them.
And I've always thought she was just so beautiful.
She's a pretty good-looking thing.
Yeah.
You know, still.
And the older she gets,
it doesn't.
it don't go away.
No.
It just stays there.
She's hotter than a fire dog pistol. Hotter than a firecracker, I tell her sometimes. All right, y'all be good, and we're gonna get out of here so we can go get some more of these follow-ups with these brothers and sisters.
And go eat some roast at Mama's house.
Yeah, we're going down to Mama Sue's and eat some roast here in just a
I
minute.
wish I could go with you.
Well, you can.
No, I can't either. I just hope your travel home is still out there.
It is. All right, y'all be good. We'll catch you in just a little bit.